Welcome to 5th grade math night. The first thing that we want to explain to you is that we understand 5th grade math is a beast. Students in 5th grade are expected to learn a lot of new concepts, from whole number problems into the millions, to fractions and decimals down to the thousandths, using a lot of rules in order of operations, looking at patterns and rules, interpreting data on graphs, coordinate planes. There will be some things that they've seen before, like measurement conversions, classifying quadrilaterals, and even volume. But a lot of these things, like volume, are going to the next level, increasing that complexity. For example, in volume, they are no longer just looking at a rectangular prism to determine its volume, but we're looking at a composite shape that's made of more than one shape put together. Now, we want you to understand, even though this seems like a lot, by the end of the year, your students will slay these math skills. They will be the 5th grade monster slayer. An important concept that we teach in 5th grade is a growth mindset. This quote by Winston Churchill really speaks to this. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity, and the opportunist sees opportunity in every difficulty. We understand that 5th grade math is difficult, but through this growth mindset, they are going to be able to see that they are growing throughout the year. We're going to give them multiple opportunities to show an expertise in each of the math skills that they have to learn. Now, if we want to see that growth, we have to work together. This comes in 3 separate steps that, when they go together, equals huge growth for a student. The first is just the student. The student has to really understand that they need to be taking notes during whole group, asking questions when they're confused, practicing, and that practice not only just happening through the act of practicing, but also in completing that schoolwork on time. This helps them to build their stamina so that when they come to a test, a longer period of time where they have to sit and work continuously, they're able to do that without showing frustration. And they have to make sure that they're paying attention during small groups. Now, the second part of this is the teacher. The teacher must answer the questions when they're asked of the students. They have to work with students in small groups, not only in that small group, but small groups based on exactly what that student needs. We have to make sure that we're grading the work and showing the students the errors so that they can go back and figure out how they can fix those errors. The last step is the caregiver. What we want those parents doing, those caregivers, are asking their students what they're doing in math, asking them what they understand, attempting to help the students when they can, and when they can't, letting the teachers know what's going on. Now, the one question, the first thing every caregiver always wants to know is, what can they do to help? Well, the first thing, the most important thing, is to talk to your child about what they're learning every day. In 5th grade, we introduce new concepts constantly. So that discussion will really help not only the child to recall what they've been learning, but also to help the caregiver in understanding if their child is struggling. All students have a math notebook. Ask them to take out their math notebook. Look at what we've been doing that week. Even asking them what they're learning in math and just saying, hey, do you have any questions? Are important steps that the caregivers can do to really help your child succeed. Look over their work for the day with them. We know all of us are working so hard, especially during these times. But taking a few seconds to just say, hey, pull up what you were doing in math today. Let's look at it. Is going to show your student, one, you're staying on top of them as far as scheduling goes to help build that stamina. And two, it's showing them that they care, and it might even give you a glimpse into the complexity of 5th grade work, or it could give you knowledge of, hey, I know they're getting this wrong. So here's the next thing that we constantly hear. What if I'm confused? This way of learning is different than the way I learned. Or what if I understand what they're doing, but I still don't understand how they're getting these answers? Well, try one of these things. The first, use their notes. Take out their notebooks. Ask, well, did the teacher do any of these problems with you today? Did you write down an example? Another thing is to look on Canvas. We actually have some great parent resources on Canvas. You can find anchor charts for every math skill, and there are even some videos explaining how to solve some of the problems. We understand there's going to be sometimes you still don't get it. Your first line of defense for this is to reach out to the teacher. Let the teacher know, hey, there's some confusion. We've looked through the notes. I can't help them. We're really trying. Can you help the child? The teacher will always make time to do this. It might be time during small group, or it might be a separate Google Meet or a separate tutoring session, but a teacher is here to help. All we have to do is know that there's an issue. Now, the second way might be to look on websites like Khan Academy. Khan Academy was actually designed by a teacher. It has videos to explain how to do almost every single math skill from the lowest elementary school student all the way through college level. And it even has practice problems. As parents ourselves, we have used this website. This is something that is great, and it's a great resource to have. Now that we know what to do when we all get confused, let's talk about some strategies that the students have been learning this year. Sometimes we've learned it's not what you ask, it's how you ask it. And if you are asking in a similar way that the teacher asked, it might help to engage that student's background knowledge to help them to go, oh, yeah, hold on, I remember the teacher saying this. Fifth grade word problems are complex. So we have actually given them a strategy to help them understand. Now, no, we don't expect them to use the strategy on every single problem. But on those complex word problems, problems that we're noticing they're getting things incorrect, this is an expectation. So we want the caregivers to understand what the strategy is so that you can help your child if you're seeing struggling. So there are 6 steps in the strategy. And we are going to be going through this strategy a little later using a word problem so that you can see how it's done. Using these steps, we start with step 1, what is the problem asking? And then you move down through the steps. Step 2, what do you know? What is that author telling you in this problem? Step 3 is simple. Our students are just asked, mark it with an S or an M. Is this a single step problem or a multi-step problem? Fifth graders, a lot of the times, have to do multi-step problems. And being able to recognize this step is extremely important. Step 4, what are your steps? Step 5, actually work it out. And step 6, which is incredibly important for these kids, does your answer make sense? If you started with one pizza that only had half of the pizza left, and you're dividing it amongst a group of students, does it make sense that your answer would be a whole number? Would you have whole pizzas left? Those type of strategies to think through these problems that doesn't make sense is incredibly important. Okay, this is the amount of times that these students have heard their teacher say, draw it out. And yet some students seem scared to do this strategy. The draw it out strategy is one of the most used strategies. This is incredibly important, especially for our fractions and our decimals. Students need to be able to see what the problem is describing. Now, we understand students are using a lot of digital, but for math, teachers will always tell the students we want to see that work on paper. It doesn't matter if the test is on the computer. Working it out on paper is incredibly important. And it also helps some students to use different highlighter colors to help them to classify that information. So here is an example. We're going to work through how we would solve this word problem. When we begin a problem, I always tell the students, read it through once. Go ahead and try to understand what's happening and then start our strategy. So in this problem, Taylor is planning to enter a relay race with some friends. He can choose from 2 races. In the relay race, the distance covered by each runner is the same. In the river run, 4 people need to run a total of 10 kilometers. In the summer classic, 8 people need to run a total of 18 kilometers. Taylor wants to enter the race in which each runner runs the shortest distance. Which race should he enter and why? So step one of our strategy is to figure out, what does it want to know? What it really wants to know is blank race is the shortest. That's really what it's wanting me to know. 2, what do I know? Well, this has lots of information, so I have to decide what actual information is given that's going to help me figure out which race is the shortest. Well, I know there's 2 races, the River Run and the Summer Classic. So in the River Run, there are 4 people, and they're going to go 10 kilometers. In the Summer Classic, there are 8 people, and they're going to go 18 kilometers. Step 3 is this a single step problem or is it a multi-step problem? Well, for me to figure out which race is the shortest, I'm going to have to figure out how far each runner will have to go for each race. So this is a multi-step. Now, step 4 is just telling me what are my steps. Well, step A, I want to figure out how far each runner has to go in the River Run. Well, I know that there are 10 kilometers total, and I need to section it so that each runner will go a certain distance. Well, that shows me I'm dividing up this 10 kilometers. So I'm going to divide 10 kilometers into 4 parts. Drawing that picture helped me to know what I was doing. For step B, I know I'm doing the same thing, but for the Summer Classic. So 18 divided by 8. Now, step 5, I'm going to work it out. Now, our students have lots of strategies for how to do division. For this video, we will go with the standard algorithm. So my dividend goes on the inside, 10, my divisor on the outside, 4. We always start in 5th grade division, making sure that we know where to start our division problem. Because 1 is less than 4, I know I move over to 10. We draw this backwards L to remind students that this is where you section off. This is extremely helpful when we move into numbers that are larger numbers. You have to give them that sectioning so that they will know when to bring down a number. For this, it doesn't matter as much, but that's a strategy that they have been taught. So because I know my 4's times tables, I know 4 times 2 is 8. 8 is close to 10 without going over. 10 minus 8 is 2. Well, now I know that my dividend, 2, is smaller than my divisor, 4. So that is going to turn into a fractional part, 2/4. Now, because we're in 5th grade, we do have to think about simplification. Can I simplify this? Yes. Both of these numbers are divisible by 2. So this number now becomes 2.5. So the River Run is 2.5 kilometers per person. So I've completed step A. Now I'm going to do step B. We will do step B the same way. I will reduce my fractional part. Now I have to figure out what makes sense for my answer. Well, my answer is which race is the shortest. So I am looking between 2.5. And 2.1/8. Well, that doesn't make sense. Let me go back and fix that. I think that it's important for the students to see when I make a mistake. Mistakes are something that we all make. What's important is as we get to this step, when we're looking to see what we've done doesn't make sense, is that we're really thinking about our answers. So now I have 2.5 and 2.1/4. For some students, they're going to know automatically, oh, 2 1/4 is the smaller race per person. So it's Summer Classic. For some students, they need to physically draw it out. 2 holes and 1/2 versus 2 holes and 1/4 to see that this is the smaller number. This is how we work through this problem in the 5th grade. I hope that this helped you to understand this strategy a little bit more. Now, we are going to be sending home an at-home game. It's called the Planet Hop. We know that adding and subtracting fractions is the most difficult skill that the students seem to be having right now. It's something that we've just gone over, and it's a great thing to practice. Not only that, it's something that they can sit down with up to 4 people and play. This is just like any other game. It has a spinner. Now, the spinner you will actually be creating, this can be done using a pencil and a paper clip, or if you have a spinner at home, you could use that. I typically use this with a pencil and a paper clip. You put the paper clip down on top of the sun that says 1, 2, 3, 4. You put a pencil in the center of the sun, and then you just spin the paper clip. Then it tells you how many spots to move. The first player moves that amount of spots and works out the problem. The second player's goal is to check behind the first player. Did they do it correctly? If they did it correctly, they get to stay. If they did it incorrectly, they have to go back to start. And this continues until you come to a winner. This is a great way to practice. And not only that, this is a great way that they could even work with siblings to help their siblings. Thank you so much for coming to Math Night. If you have any questions, please always feel free to reach out to your teacher.